Hey everyone, welcome back to What's on Random. Today we will be doing a bit of a little different video. So compared to my edits that I've posted in the past, I've decided to come back to YouTube and post a video on my favorite paranormal movies. So all of these will be horror movies based around the paranormal and different events. So let's get into that. I will be starting at number 10, which is kind of like my least favorite, not really. And then number 1 is probably my most favorite. So let's jump into it. Starting off with number 10 on the list, we have Sinister. Sinister is a movie about children, the youngest of the family, that have seen spirits and eventually end up making films of their family and documenting them before the spirits make the youngest child kill their entire family in terrible ways. And these children have been told by this man that you'll see on both of the covers of the movie, right here and also right here. Now you will need both of them to understand what is fully going on in the movie, and I'm not exactly sure which one goes first, but I do believe that it is just the movie Sinister, and then next comes Sinister, Be Careful, Children at Play. That one. So I'm not exactly sure on how it goes, but I'm pretty sure it goes that way. Next, we have the movie You Should Have Left. You Should Have Left is a very strange movie that you will need to fully sit down and watch till the very end, because it does get quite confusing. And if you were not careful enough and remember different parts from the movie, you may forget what is actually going on. So basically, it's about a family. This guy has met this lady, and she is his second partner that we know of in the film. And they have a child together who is probably at the age of like 7. And they decide that they are going to go on a little vacation before the mother, who is an actress, goes off to some other city to do her acting career, I guess. So they go to this house that they found on the internet. Possibly it was Craigslist, I think. I'm not 100% certain. But they do find this house, as you see in the very bottom of the... Jesus. You see in the bottom of the movie. And they decide that that is where they're having their holiday. It is a ginormous house, and they kind of get lost in it. And there are all these secret rooms. Now, the father of the young girl has been having these nightmares of his daughter dying. He had a previous wife before this lady, and something really bad happened to her. I'm not going to give away too much, but yeah. It does get confusing, and basically the house does not want him to leave because he has done wrong in his life, and he is forced to stay in the house. Next, we have The Weeping Woman, or also known as The Curse of La Llorona. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I have no clue whatsoever. So, this is basically a movie based off a legend from either Mexico or Spain of a woman who had actually drowned her 2 children and then proceeded to drown herself. And now her spirit comes back to take naughty children and also drown them. It is a pretty good film, and it is from kind of like the Conjuring universe. It's another part of it, but there is no like Ed and Lorraine Warren. But I do recommend it, and if you are going to watch it, I also do recommend that you do a little bit of research on the whole Weeping Woman before watching it, just so you have a bit of an insight of it. Next, we have the movie The Nun. Now, a lot of people did say it was scary, but I personally didn't find it scary at all. Me and my mom sat up at night and watched it, and we were about to fall asleep watching this thing. It was that boring. But it was not the best movie I've ever seen. And I only put it so low down because a lot of people may have different opinions. Just because it's not as confusing as the other ones, it doesn't go up on such a high part of the list. If you have seen any of the other Conjuring films, specifically Conjuring 2, then you will have already seen the nun in it. And she is known as a spirit that wants to, I believe, kill Ed Warren. And this is kind of like how she is released and cursed people kind of thing. So it's not the best movie, but it's Number 6 of this list, we have the movie The Poltergeist. Now, The Poltergeist is about a family of 4 that moves into this house. And if you have ever seen that really iconic scene of the young girl who has her hands touching the static TV, then you now know where it has come from. Basically, what happens is the youngest child in this family gets sucked into a TV that takes her to a different reality, basically. And she's stuck with the dead, and her family has to come back or try and go in and rescue her. It is a bit of a strange one, and it is kind of similar to the movie Insidious, which will be on this list as well. But it is a pretty good film, the movie Poltergeist. Next, we have the Annabelle series. Now, the Annabelle series is also part of the Conjuring, and it is a bit of a confusing series. I will tell you now. I'm still not 100% certain how it goes, but I'm getting there. But I do believe the way it goes is, so there are 3 movies. There's Annabelle, there's I think Annabelle 2 or something like that, and then there's Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle, just the movie, is about a young lady who has a husband, and they have just kind of fallen pregnant with their child, with a baby, and she's about to give birth. And she's always wanted a doll that looks like Annabelle without knowing like the kind of original meaning of it. And she gets the doll, and the doll gets put in the baby's room, and there's a murder from next door, and the killer comes into the house, and there's a lot of blood everywhere. And her blood from the murderer gets splashed onto the doll, which makes this doll possessed, I guess. But then it does get a little confusing, because the second one that came out, it kind of explained who this lady was. So the lady who was the murderer of the next door neighbors, who I believe may have actually possessed the Annabelle doll, was actually an orphan and taken to like a I'm not sure if it was an orphanage or if they were just staying at this place for a while, but she was taken to this place with her friend, and she had this doll, and she kind of went a little psycho. And then the Annabelle Comes Home movie is completely different, and it's just about Ed and Lorraine Warren and their daughter, and how their daughter and her babysitter and her friend are quite interested in the Annabelle doll, and the Annabelle doll kind of gets loose, and all the different creatures and things that are in the house kind of, come out to play. But yeah, the Annabelle series is quite confusing, but I do recommend watching them. Do not watch them from Annabelle, Annabelle 2, and then the Annabelle Comes Home. Make sure you watch Annabelle 2, Annabelle 1, and then Annabelle Comes Home, because that's the best way to watch them. Next on this list is the Amityville movies. So there is the Amityville Horror, the original, and the remake from 2005. And then there is another one called the Amityville Awakening, which I believe is just a fictional one, where the Amityville Horror is realistic and based off the true events that happened. So basically, the events that had happened were that a man had claimed that he was possessed and forced to get a shotgun and shoot his entire family. Everyone that was in the house that night got shot in their sleep. And it's kind of confusing. I wouldn't say it's completely confusing. I don't remember it too well, but it is a very good movie. The Amityville Horror, original from 1979 is pretty shitty. A lot of people say the remakes are terrible, but I personally sometimes prefer the remakes. But when it comes to the case of Child's Play, it was terrible. I'm going to tell you now, I really don't recommend watching the new Child's Play. You have already suffered and wasted your money on watching that movie. I'm very sorry. But yeah. The Amityville Horror is a pretty good movie, and I do recommend it. It's quite nice. And the Amityville Awakening is quite a strange one. It's about a family who moves into the house, 3 children and a mother. The son, who is a twin to the eldest sister, is in a paralyzed state. And I'm not going to tell you why, so you guys can figure that out. But basically, there is a red room under the house, and it makes him get better, but it's actually a demon possessing his body. And he is going to go around and do the same thing that the man before them did by killing everyone that was in the house. So it is a pretty good movie, but make sure that you do watch or understand how the original Amityville murder happened before you go and watch Amityville Awakening like I did. Because that just did not make sense at all. And next on the list, we have the Conjuring series. Now, just for the sole purpose, I have the brand new one that came out not long ago. The Devil Made Me Do It. That was a really good one. The entire Conjuring series is just different cases that Ed and Lorraine Warren have worked on. Like the Conjuring one was one about a family with like 7 girls or something, and the 2 parents, and the house was possessed by a lady who had hung herself after attempting to sacrificing her baby to Satan, and then hung herself and put a curse on the entire land, saying that anyone who moves into this like land, I think it was 100 acres or something like that, will basically do the same thing that she did by killing their children. Just the mothers though, not the fathers. The second one was about a British family of 2 girls and 2 boys. Yep, and the mother, there was no father in the picture. And this was around the time that Ed and Lorraine Warren really didn't want to do any more cases, and they were kind of just, slowly letting it go. But Lorraine was adamant that they kind of help these people. I think. I can't really remember how it was. But it was a pretty good one. It was about a man who was brought to the house by the nun to, I guess, use it as an excuse to kind of kill Ed or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how it worked, but it was really good. And the Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, was basically another one of their cases about a guy who was possessed and killed his boss because his girlfriend's brother was possessed, and he tried to ward the demon away from the brother, but instead also got possessed. There's a bit in there about curses and stuff like that and black magic, but overall it is all a good series. Next on this horror movie list, we have the movie Ouija Board. Now, there are, I believe, 2 of them to this series. Kind of, I don't know how to explain it. But there are 2 of them. There is one that starts out with a young girl, and her sister and her mother are living in this house, and her mother is a psychic who basically fakes stuff for money. And one day her eldest daughter went out to a friend's house and was playing the Ouija board with her friend, and her mum decided to add that to her practice and kind of read the rules but didn't think that it would affect her other child, who is quite young. And they both go to Catholic schools. They go to a Catholic school, the 2 children, so it wasn't really a good combination. Ouija boards obviously do have risks, so please, if you do want to play one, which I'm not recommending, please be very careful when talking to something on the Ouija board, because you may think that it is someone, like a loved one, but it won't be. It may be just a demon that's playing tricks. So, sorry. The young girl becomes quite fluent with the demons and eventually ends up getting possessed by one. And she kills her mother, and the elder sister gets driven insane by what has happened due to, I believe, probably trauma, and is thrown in a psychiatric hospital at the end after she sews her sister's mouth shut. I think that was to contain the demon that was inside her. Anyways, the next one was basically a girl who had moved into this house, found a Ouija board that had been left in the house, and decided to play it alone, and was driven to unalive herself. But at the end of it, kind of thing, her friends decide that they want to try and talk to her to see what had happened and why she had decided to do what she did. And they ended up getting in contact with an evil spirit and decided that they were going to go and dig up some clues for what had happened in the house previously. And they found out what had happened about the mother that had been murdered, another boy who had been murdered in the house as well that I forgot to mention, and the young girl who had been murdered. And the only survivor was the teenage girl who was now a lot older and still very mentally unstable. They go to her for help, but she just kind of betrays them, and it doesn't end very well. But I know a lot of people didn't really like the movie Ouija Board. It is one of my favorites though, hence why it is on this list, so I do 100% recommend this film. I'm sorry. And last on this horror movie list, we have the Insidious series. I personally love the series. It has great everything, I'm telling you. So basically, I'll start off with the first one. So in the first movie, there's a son who is able to have his soul travel out of his body and wander around with kind of other dead people, and he ends up in a coma because his soul got dragged too far, or he wandered too far from his body and couldn't find out how to get back. Anyway, the father's mother, so the boy's grandmother, calls a lady that she knows to try and help them. And eventually, the father finds out that he actually used to be able to do this when he was a child, and it didn't end up too well, and he actually brought back a really bad spirit. So they blocked him off basically from it. And the father ends up getting the son back, but in the process, the demon from his childhood had actually succeeded in possessing his body and taken over his body and his life and left him stuck in the other world, I guess. The next movie is just kind of a carry-on from that, where the family then goes to live with the mother after the psychic lady had actually helped get the son back, who had actually helped, get the son back after she had been murdered by the father because the demon had taken his body. And then basically the son goes back and gets the father to his body and the demon out, and he's all good after that. The next two were just kind of other ones from the lady's past after she stopped, doing technically readings and anything psychic. But she helps this young girl, and at the end of the movie, she ends up having this demon attached to her who is making her get hurt in all different ways, and they eventually get rid of it after she gets possessed. And then the fourth one, the last one, it's called The Last Key. I'd have to say that that would be my favorite one. It's quite funny, and it's from way, way, way back in the psychic's past. I'm pretty sure, not like completely way back, but it's a little further than the third one. But yeah, she goes to investigate this house, and she finds her brother and meets her nieces, and they try to help this guy who claims that his house is haunted, when really he's actually trapped a young girl in the house, and it just brings a lot of different memories and flashbacks for the elder psychic. So that is all the movies that I have that I love, and it is just in general great. I love all of these movies. So that is the conclusion of this list. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm really sorry for my rambling throughout this and me trying to explain what has happened in movies. But do definitely take my word on it, and that these movies are in general just the best horror movies you will ever watch in your entire life. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any other types of maybe videos you'd like to see, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.